Moms and dads, do you wish you could know where your kids' shoes are at all times? Now you can with Skechers' newest Apple AirTag compatible sneakers, Find My Skechers. There's a clever hidden AirTag compartment under the shoe's insole. It's sleek, secure, and your child can't feel or see it. Then you can check where your kids' shoes are on the Find My app. Plus, they're available for boys and girls. Get Find My Skechers at Skechers.com, a Skechers store near you, or wherever kids' shoes are sold. Apple AirTags sold separately.
Do Crohn's disease symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya guselkumab may help. At 12 weeks, rapid symptom remission was achieved in most patients taking Tremfya, and some experienced visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible and ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franz Grote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is lead with heart, not harm. A question from the audience: are you unknowingly causing stress or harm in how you lead your team? That's exactly what Trevor will dive into today. He'll explore well-meaning leaders can unintentionally create harm through silence, burnout, overhelping, or avoiding tough conversations, and how to shift into harm-less conscious leadership that supports both people and performance. Our guest today is Trevor Bryce Stevenson from Conscious Lead. Trevor is the spirited force behind Conscious Lead, a lifelong explorer of leadership in all its forms, from growing up on a farm where teamwork mattered to traveling across 30 countries before the age of 30. Trevor has led adventures on land and sea, guiding overland trucks, whitewater expeditions, even captaining and ocean-faring yachts. In 2004, he co-founded Conscious Lead with his wife, Dale, helping leaders across public service, healthcare, education, and business reduce harm and lead with more heart. He also launched Generate You to help youth design meaningful lives, and more recently, Fundamental, a growing brotherhood of men committed to learning, healing, and having more fun. Trevor brings intensity, creativity, and humor to everything he does, including his work as a travel coach, venture retreat host. He's also a proud dad of 2 boys and a Guinness World Record holder. He's on a mission to help people hurt less, grow more, and enjoy life a whole lot more. Trevor, welcome, sir. I find it fascinating. Leading with heart, not harm, is a key element for you. How did you arrive to that? How did that become an epiphany? And here's the end result.
Great coaches is the short answer. Growing up on a big farm, youngest of 6 kids, there wasn't a lot of time for softness and empathy. We grew to be a little bit hard. When I left and started traveling the world, it was just a discovering of myself, an expression of that fun and joy that I knew lived inside of me. But when I became a business owner, a spouse, a parent, and a boss, my role model, my deeply entrenched belief system was that farmer mentality. And so I needed a lot of overcoming, a lot of unlearning of patterns to help me get to that place. Good coaching. And thankfully, I have a live-in coach who couldn't be here with us today. And I know she'll join us another time in Dale. She really supported me in getting beyond my head and into my heart in the way that I show up for myself and in the way that I lead others. It's a very long journey that I still work on every day.
So how did travel and adventure shape your view?
Wayne, I'm such an advocate, and we talked a little bit there, or Bernie did, about Generate You and youth.
Don't just ride the index. Seek to outperform it with FELC, the Fidelity Enhanced Large Cap Core ETF. Unlike passive ETFs, FELC is run by a team of experts to adapt to market conditions and pursue upside potential wherever it's hiding. And while you get the potential outperformance of an actively managed fund, you can still buy and sell it on your terms, just like any other ETF. Discover FELC, the Fidelity Enhanced Large Cap Core ETF, part of Fidelity's suite of active ETFs. Learn more at fidelity.com/FELC. Before investing in any exchange-traded fund, you should consider its investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Contact Fidelity for a prospectus and offering circular, or if available, a summary prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. While active ETFs offer the potential to outperform an index, these products may more significantly trail an index as compared with passive ETFs. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
It was a part of my education system. We were all a part of that system that said, okay, you did high school, go off to post-secondary. And then those days, it was just university. People didn't even really consider college. It was this herd mentality. So I did that, even though I didn't know what I wanted to do and knowing I didn't need any more institutional learning. And so I didn't stay very long, and I started traveling the world. It was in those years of traveling that I really discovered who I was and what I'm passionate about, and this keen interest for humans and human nature. And I brought that back into the business that we formed. It was a big part of why we shaped this business, to ask those same questions I was asking people when I was guiding around the world. What do you do when you're not here? Why does it seem like an escape to come here? And what would you be doing if you weren't doing that? When people are in travel mode, they're away from the societal norms that have shaped them. I got out of that small town that I grew up in. I got away from everybody knowing, oh, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and you're going to show up in this way, and your older siblings are this, and your parents are this, and so you better follow suit. And we live into those expectations. When people travel, they get to make it up. They get to every day, they say, you know what, I'm in a new place with new people. I'm going to try on being more empathetic, or being more assertive, or being more kind, or smiling. And they just get to try it on. And it seems like a lower pressure and a lower risk, because the next day is going to be a whole new canvas on which to paint.
Leadership patterns that are harmful, what do they look like? Everybody assumes go forth and be prosperous. What are the traits that provide toxicity?
I think that mentality you just shared is one of the challenges, because our society sees prosperous in bank account balances, in the cars that we drive, in the clothes that we wear, and not necessarily in the joy that we experience or the impact that we have on others. A lot of these mental models, these traditional foundations of leadership, are dollars and cents, their drive toward bottom line. And it's not just the impact that these leaders have on others, because it's that concept, Bernie and Wayne, of hurt people. Those folks that are doing the harm are also hurting themselves, but they, for the most part, have some form of mask on, and they're showing up and putting on that brave smile and driving forward towards results, and not taking care of themselves in a way that is beneficial to the whole. That is what gets cascaded to others and creates that toxicity. It has to start from the self. A lot of that can be overworking, like I was saying earlier about getting into my farmer mentality. That's it. When the sun was shining, we worked. And when it wasn't, we worked. If I bring that mentality, which I did for a bunch of years, into everything that I do, then it creates that toxic environment, and people are on edge, always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Is there an authentic style that men can bring to the table that is healthy and leads the right way?
Thank you for that question, Wayne. The short answer is absolutely. And some of the greatest leaders I have encountered in my 20 plus years of this leadership development business that we have run are those people who are all heart and kindness, not to the point of being pushovers, but being very clear that they care. They care about the people around them. Those are the people who have incredible teams that care for them also, that have trust, that feel safe, that are engaged, that produce results collectively and through diversity. And so in my mind, it is the path forward, and it's a big ship to turn. It's a beautiful way to go, because first of all, you're taking care of yourself. You're not worrying about how to change other people or just how to change that business result. Those are there in the strategic plan and such. But if the people strategy is not a part of the business strategy, then you're forever going to be creating a wake of harm behind you.
So, would tough love be a wrong approach? Sometimes when you're learning boundaries, you have to hit a wall to go, there's a wall there. You can't keep doing that. It's like diet, right? I could love popcorn or ice cream and eat that all day long, but my body will tell me later on, that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. And so I paused because I was trying to assimilate and was better out as a question. What do you mean by tough love? So thank you for explaining. In some cases, that can be cold turkey, that I need to tell that person I can no longer be around them if this is what our relationship is going to look like. But tough love to me is often the tough conversation about how what you're doing is having an impact on me, how I'm relating to what you're doing. I was listening to your show with Bill Davey, and he was saying sometimes you just have to tell them it's an ugly baby. So there's a difference, I think, between what we call honesty, because that is very subjective, right? And because he also shared about mentoring others and experience versus advice. You can argue with my advice, you can't argue with my experience. And so, similar to this, if my tough love is about my experience, then it's absolutely imperative. Right? It's a little bit nuanced, I think, Bernie, in that tough love can be taken the wrong way, as in, hey, I just got to tell you what's up. And that can create a lot of harm because then it's a lot of judgment in there and it's more about you than it is about my experience of you.
How do you spot harm when it's being done?
I have my radars up, and most times, because we're not living in the workplaces where most of the harm is being done, we get to connect with, and when I say we, it's the Dale that's not here beside me right now, but we see the people that are coming because they are experiencing the harm and they're starting to recognize they are passing that on. And so what starts to happen, Wayne, is that people recognize burnout or overwhelm. They can't go on any further, or they have these feelings of being passed over for opportunities or kind of pushed aside. They have realizations in their marriage that things are distant and cold. In their parenting, that they don't have the type of connection that they want. And coach of this conscious, non-harming leadership, I can, like, the story that you tell me in an instant, I can recognize the pattern of harm you're doing to yourself through your conversation, because that's the most important part, is how is my dialogue creating harm within me then that I go out there and share in the world. And so foremost, we recognize that in the conversations, but for a leader themselves, it's about being real honest with, how are my relationships? What am I seeing? What am I really feeling? What is that energy I have with my wife, with my boss, with my staff, with my children? And we start to learn that way.
What are the leadership myths keeping us crippled?
There are a few, and I think a lot of it relates to this thought of not being able to be open or vulnerable, not being able to share what's real for us and our experience. So we will take positional authority and we will override or overrule, or we will be in a victim mentality and we will cringe and cower away. So the myth being that it's not okay to share what's going on for us. I think that creates a lot of harm, and it has for centuries. Our inability to communicate what's going on for us in a way that creates more healing and less harm. Big thing, if we can shift the way that we communicate to be authentic, then we start to shift the cultures that we create and the world that we live in.
You figure that men don't do that well versus women?
I know, I can see the tongue in your cheek when you say that, Bernie. But truly, it's no secret that we weren't raised with a focus on that. We were raised to be manly, to be stoic, to persevere, to push through, to override and overrule. For the most part, no, we're not practiced at this. And so it is harder for men. Women, it's another whole bag of challenges living in that man's world and in corporate and such. But specific to your question, there is a real journey for us men to be able to be okay with slowing down, to recognize that we have more emotions than joy and anger or desire, and that it's okay to express them.
Does it matter what generation you are? If you're the boomer, that'd be the stoic one, right? If I'm not missing my mark, versus the most recent edition, Gen Z. I'm not even sure if it, or Gen AA. It sounds like a battery. My apologies, but I'm not trying to make light of it. At a certain point in time, I start losing tabs of who's who.
Maybe that speaks to our age. There's more now to keep.
We only have a lifespan of about 100 years or less.
15-year buckets we got to keep track of. It adds up. The fact that we're having this conversation that thousands of people are going to hear, and that there are thousands of these conversations happening, I think is creating a shift. Pendulums tend to swing wildly. Hopefully there's a centering of some sorts. Some of those generations were maybe overly sensitive and needed coddling and overexpressive about their emotions, but without a real connection of agency of, okay, I realize my emotion, and now what can I do with that information? There is a lot of work that...
Need to restock inventory, cover seasonal dips, or manage payroll? OnDeck's small business line of credit provides immediate access to funds up to $100,000 exactly when your business needs it. With flexible draws, transparent pricing, and full control over repayment, you can tackle unexpected expenses without missing a beat. Apply today at ondeck.com, and funds could be available as soon as tomorrow. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
Isn't offered in our education system with respect to wellness.
So I'll ask you a loaded question. What happens if you were talking to a fellow boomer and you go, how did we create an entire generation of crybabies? And I'm wondering, how do you unpack that way?
This is great. So right there, Wayne, we could dive into a coaching session about judgment and what a crybaby is, because the question is similar to the previous one with respect to how do we right size that or create authenticity without more harm. If we're labeling a crybaby, then speaking to Stephen Karpman's work of the drama triangle, we're likely in that villain role. We're suggesting that those crybabies are the victims. More harm is being done if we stay in that. So it's what I would coach these boomers to recognize: when they think that person is being a crybaby, what is going on for them? What is the challenge they're experiencing relative to their perception of that person? And then if they were authentic and meaningful about creating a shift in that culture, then we've got a big movement to talk about, which is another exciting thing.
So this all kind of wraps itself around self-awareness. And a couple of things come to mind as you were describing that and as we're walking through these points. One is whether you're leading somebody or you're encountering something that you've now identified as a problem, how you're taking to something. And then how do you resolve it so that it runs smooth? Do you bring in humor? Do you bring in play? To say that to a boomer, but if I recall correctly, the fish market scenario out in the West Coast, but he's a fishmonger, right? And he just has fun, but he still sells the fish. And the customer finds it an animated story. And so it all becomes more than just, here's a dead fish. Do you want this one? Here, this one can talk to you. It speaks in other languages. I'm bringing levity to this. But is it a internal point of view that has to kind of, hey, stop, back up? What's driving you and what is the true problem? Is that all part of the process? And then regardless what age bracket you're in, because whether the recent edition or the old edition of a human being, doesn't matter, right?
100%. Yeah. The operating system, unfortunately, remains the same. And so we have to go back and look at how we do the rewiring. And for better or for worse, we're only a few hundred years into millions of evolution. And we still have that reptilian brain, the amygdala, that is deeply entrenched from birth. Every single experience has shaped us. Hopefully, it offers us some sense of peace when we recognize that everyone else and the way they're showing up is based on millions of experiences they've had since birth and prenatal. And so our reaction is based on all of that as well. And so to recognize for a moment, and this is where kind of the humor can come in, is, oh, there's that farmer showing up again. How do I want to? And that's the amygdala firing off, right? And all the resources go there, and the brain signals the body to dump adrenaline and cortisol in, and we're ready to fight or run. And to be able to be self-aware, like you were describing now, and either feel it or recognize it or precede that energy and that judgment allows us to get into the more modern parts of the brain and the prefrontal cortex and make more rational decisions and say, okay, I recognize this is going on. How do I want to feel? How do I want to react to this? And how do I want to show up? And what do I want the result and the impact to be? And then we can be a little more intentional with the way that we show up in any of our leadership roles.
One thing I love in your written work is you put the FUN in fundamental. Unpack that for me.
I was so proud the day that landed for me. I knew I wanted to be working with more men. I have a bit of an isolated group of guys out here in the hills that I've been meeting with for over a decade. And I wanted more men to have access to that. I wanted the ethos of fun. My Instagram handle, Fun Road to Freedom, is such a big part of me. And it's the dichotomy of that farmer mentality. I am that yellow, that monkey, whatever test you're doing. I'm always over there in my true essence. And I want it to be a part of everything I do. But in my stress situations, I go to these other places. I've got the fun highlighted, I've got the men highlighted, I've got mental in there, and I've got the fundamental, which is the base layer. These are some of the principles, I think, for men that do get lost. We get all serious about being the provider, not the caregiver in the way that our female counterparts are, but the caregiver is in, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to get it done and I'm going to pay the bills and fix the house and cut the lawn and drive the kids and coach the teams. And so we do and we do and we do. At some point we recognize, hey, I haven't really been taking care of my true essence, my true self. And I remember when I was fun and adventurous and playful, that guy that my wife married.
So this sounds like a shift in culture. I'm leading some people, whether it's they're my staff, they're contractors, whatever the relationship is, perhaps even the clients, depending on how closely I work with them. How do I adjust my culture? Either I'm reading the body language, or someone's actually telling me, or they're not telling you, they're just walking away. You get staff turnover, or clients are going, yeah, it's been nice knowing you.
Yeah. And so the awareness piece is a little bit what we were talking about earlier, is starting to be attuned to the external factors. That just begs the question then of, what is it about me? I'm that common denominator in my relationships again. And so what is it that is going on for me? If I'm looking to shift the culture of the scene around me, whether that is my business or my family or my community, then it's starting to recognize my own reactivity and some of the things that we were just talking about with fun. I'm not a fun guy to be around anymore. Why is that? Oh, it's because I grew up, my father was disabled at a young age. I became the man of the household and I started working at 14 and I never stopped. I remember playing soccer. I remember playing jokes on people. I remember writing funny stories. And it's that person that we have to dig back up and reignite. A big part of people's journey is back to that authenticity. And that can only come through recognizing that the way that we're showing up and a little bit what has shaped that. We don't need to dive into deep psychology and therapy, because we can have a conversation and recognize, oh, that can, just like that scenario I just gave about how someone might have grown up. It all gets linked back to that so easily. What do I need now? And we're back to the present and this moment that I'm being triggered in. How do I take care of myself in this moment and express more of what I want to in that moment? That is the authentic person that people want to be around. And while it'll also push some away, right? It will attract those who you should have around you for living your best and authentic self.
Trevor, how do you show vulnerability without radiating weakness?
I think the act of showing vulnerability is the opposite of weakness. I will drive anything, jump off anything, ski into anything fearlessly. Ask me to have that conversation about that thing my wife said or didn't say that has been sitting with me. Then I'm nervous and I'll hold on to it and I'll bury it. Oh, okay, we're getting along better again. It's not a big deal. And we leave it and move on. We move on. That vulnerability to express what was real for me is one of the scariest things. It's so far from a weakness, but it can certainly be perceived as that. And I think the image of that is like the breakdown in the meeting of someone crying, which is close to a last straw that we want to get to. So that authentic expression, we want to be, and unfortunately, we get connected with people when they are at that point or beyond it. Where we want to connect with people is when they're starting to recognize their impact or dissatisfaction or unhappiness. To be able to express clearly and confidently what is going on for oneself is a true act of courage. When we speak confidently about our own experience, we're no longer rattled. We're starting to shed that need of other people's acceptance of that mask we were wearing, while recognizing it is a shift. People are still going to perceive things that way. And that is just another conversation, another journey for us. It doesn't mean we need to stop doing it. It doesn't mean we're going to change everybody's reactions to us. It just hopefully inspires the journey and not the retreat.
What is a daily practice that we can plug in to lead more consciously?
The practice of recognizing what is going on for me, I say easy. It's easy to do. It's not easy to stop and do. When I feel something, whether it's driving down the road and someone cuts me off, whether it's that thing that my boss says to me, whether it's my kids' shoes sitting in the hallway again, whether it's the dishes being there in the morning that I'd asked to not be there the night before. When I feel something triggered by something, when it's me looking at my bank account, when, as we had a conversation yesterday with a friend, knowing she needs to have this journey, when it's a thought of coming in and being with other people in a conversation with this and a huge fear, when I have these emotions, just write them down, write down the emotion. And a really easy trick for that, because we also don't know emotions.
Cash flow crunch? OnDeck's small business line of credit gives your business immediate access to funds, up to $100,000 right when you need it. Cover seasonal dips, manage payroll, restock inventory, or tackle unexpected expenses without missing a beat. With flexible draws, transparent pricing, and control over repayment, get funded quickly and confidently. Apply today at OnDeck.com. Funds could be available as soon as tomorrow. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
We'll put the word feel in front of a thought. We'll say, I feel like you don't trust me, Bernie. Or I feel like you're trying to anger me, Wayne. And those aren't feelings at all. Those are thoughts. And so an easy way to think of it is, what's the emoji for it? Is there an emoji for it? It's happy, sad, frustrated, disappointed, confused, any of these things that it's a single word and it's not followed by I feel or as though or that. Write down the emotions that you feel in a day, and that will just start to heighten your self-awareness, which can create the most change for you.
So you work with youth and you have a program called Generate You. What's the difference between that and, let's say, people like Wayne and myself, other than we're not youth?
You're young adults now.
Young adults.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
It depends where you start the marker at age 15
Exactly.
to 25 or what?
Yeah, no, it's just feeling young.
Oh, feeling young. Gotcha.
We have folded into another organization now. So I work with less youth. We still do things in the schools where our children are and with their friends as much as possible. I have found in the 12 years I was running that, and we developed programs, first of all, for that age where I was, and asking the big question of what do I really want to do versus just getting shepherded into post-secondary. We realized that 17, 18-year-old, 16 years even, they're already like sold the story and the path. And so we started developing programs for younger and younger with developmentally important aspects. for that age group. The difference we found in working with youth versus adults, it really started up to grade 6 when they weren't socially entrenched, when they didn't have devices yet, when they weren't showing up to impress other people. Once we get into middle school and high school, the differences become smaller because now we have started showing up as we think other people want us to be. Truly, that has started from young, but when we worked with the youth at those younger ages, they were just wild and free, and it was beautiful. We had a program called Sponges because they were just soaking up everything. Once we get into the older ages, it's more of a conversation to shift the mind to the possibility that I am the agent of change. The neural wiring is much less deep. Once they believe that to be true, they can change and own that change. It's a much shorter road to shift habits and patterns. As we age, we become more entrenched in our belief systems.
So that's what
Interesting.
VS stands for. You
Only that.
know.
Only that.
What's the one piece of advice you would give to a male entrepreneur to be the genesis to the path of being aware?
I think one of the challenges we oftentimes, because we are swimming in the water, we don't recognize it. And so we continue to have the conversations that we have always had in the way that we've always talked. The shallow talk and the sports and the weather and things like that, or the politics and the finances, wherever our comfort zone is. Where we get uncomfortable is in those truths that we've been talking about here today, that my wife and I are having a hard time. My kids don't talk to me. I keep having this wild turnover at work, not in a complaining way, but so I'm starting to wonder how I can shift that for myself. My big piece of advice is to find someone with whom you can have those more honest conversations about real things, whether that's a coach, therapist, life partner, AI, or best mate. This is what it's been for me with this group of guys that for over 12 years we've been connecting with every week. We wrap that around huge fun and adventure and some weird athleticism, making up games in the woods. But it's really about the conversations about what's real and what's going on for us. So men, find someone with whom you can talk. My program Fundamental it's a weekly call that these guys just rave about the environment of it, where they feel safe and they can have these conversations. And again, we have fun and we can be foolish, but we ground that in change and evolution for ourselves.
Let's say we are where we are, but we're hoping we're going forward. Where do you see us going in 5 years in leadership, specifically male leadership?
I think there's a call for us to be more self-aware, more compassionate. I think there's a need for that. I say that while knowing there are things going on in the world that are the complete opposite of that. And I think compassion is what is going to heal our relationships and create a better world. Yes, from a capitalist standpoint, but more from a human capital standpoint. I think that call, we are at this advent of AI, and it can be used to support this. We can have those conversations to increase our self-awareness, to improve our relationships, to grow our confidence, to have a different conversation. I think the self-compassion is like, I'm just going to be hopeful there and say that's where we're going.
If a person wants to twig something, they're hearing it, it resonates with them. What geography are you the most comfortable working in, and how do we reach you?
I've this digital landscape I'm pretty comfortable with now. And we're, like I said, we meet weekly, virtually, with guys from all over the world. If you're in the National Capital Region of Canada, we're doing stuff locally as well. I have started running my adventure coaching experiences, a melding of all the adventure travel and guiding that I've done, along with all the coaching and mental emotional guiding that I do. I'm taking men on these journeys to have more fun and build this brotherhood and trusting environment with other men where we can have real conversations. We're doing epic adventure things and riding motorbikes and surfboards and climbing volcanoes and mountains and immersing in different cultures. at the same time doing some really great navel gazing and having that conversation about what's really going on for us, building self-awareness, planting those seeds, and then continuing the conversation when we come back home to create real shift. I'm on Instagram, Fun Road to Freedom, Trevor Bryce Stevenson on LinkedIn. ConsciousLead.life is the website. I love having real conversations with people.
I want to say thank you to Trevor Bryce Stevenson, Wayne Pratt, my co-host, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. Hey, listen, if this piqued your interest and you want to reduce the harm, the unseen harm in the workplace, you want to have a little more conscious awareness. And it may sound aloof, but it's not, because at the end of the day, it comes back to how your operating system inside you is working, right? And knowing what's happening. If you know what's going on, what's pushing your buttons, this can give you a little more calmness and a better approach, so you'll have success in your business, and that is key.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, waynemotivateyou.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motivateyou.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jovan Strika from Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.